Just. And now let's move into our meditation with that beautiful song in our heart and our mind. Unplug, unwind. As you take a nice deep breath, move into your heart space. You could put your hand on your heart if that helps you to center. And breathe in like you're breathing in and out through your heart. Of course, not your physical heart, although it certainly aids us in breathing. But that spiritual connection with the divine that rests in the center of our being. So we plug in to your heart, to our heart wisdom. And as you feel that connection, you feel a good thought drop into that space. The thought of a loved one, a kitten, a puppy, Mother Earth, a snowflake, something that just brings a smile to your face and allows your body to go, oh, no tension, no fear, just a smile. And let us move into the silence with this question. Can you find peaceful, open, and loving thoughts? no matter what? Can you, even for a moment, allow yourself to feel divine love and wisdom rise up in you as you, in the midst of your human and spiritual journey? Will you, even if for a moment, affirm, I and the infinite forces of the universe are one. I and the infinite forces of the universe are one. Find the better feeling thought. Feel the divine rise up in you right here and right now as we move now into the silence. Breathing in and breathing out. Right here and right now, in the midst of your amazing spiritual and human journey, breathe, knowing that you are safe and you are loved beyond measure. With every breath, know that you and the infinite forces of the universe are one. Are one.
Take a breath, take a seat, take a moment, and just be. Here you are, that's enough. Give yourself permission to unplug, unplug, unlearn, unwind, unhear, unsee, unturn, unmove, unfun, unplay, unmake, unsay, unseen, unthink, undo.
My dear friends in the sound booth, I'm going to have a document up and I can't see whether I'm muted or not. So we are unmuted now, and that's where you want me. That's where our Zoomers want me. And as we move into the next phase for the music, I will unmute. I will mute. Okay, just I added another layer of complexity to this wonderful, complex thing. And John now is going to delight us with some very uncomplicated music. Ooh, I set you up.
I'm gonna chop on this clay in Wisconsin, this turbulence of the daylight savings time, which nobody needs.
That's it. I should still be asleep.
I've seen my share of struggle. I thought that I'd do best when I sailed through the storm instead of stopping for a rest. It always seemed the hardest when I made up my mind. Well, I'm changing my ways this time. I wanna be like water coming down the mountain in the shadowy canyon, flowing from pool to stream. I'll be like water headed uphill, no more. I am free to flow to the stream. Have you ever seen an eagle head straight into the wind? He doesn't try to fight it, spreads his wings and just glides in. And in the end, he always makes it home just fine. He knows every storm subsides. I'll be like water coming down the mountain in the shadowy canyons, flowing from pool to stream. I'll be like water headed uphill, no more. I am free to flow to the sea. I'll let nature take its course. No more thinking that I know where this river's meant to go. I have railed against the stars for the cards that I've been dealt, for the lottery I never won, the heartaches that I felt. But it seems that when I let go of ego and the past, plenty of life left for me, yeah. I wanna be like water coming down the mountain in the shadowy canyon, flowing from pool to stream. Wanna be like water headed uphill, no more. I am free to flow to the sea. I am free to flow to the sea.
Now you want me unmuted, right? Booth, you want me unmuted? Life is so good. And I'm going to be like water flowing down the mountain today. Yes, no, like an avalanche, I think. Yeah, I think it's that. So my talk today, should I choose to say it, is the second Sunday of Lent, is the infinite as you. God, the infinite as you, unbounded energy field that God is operating in and through you, around you, always and in all ways, guiding you and loving you. Now, tell me, does that seem sometimes like a contradiction of what you see out in the world? What's going on today? What's gone on throughout history, really? And at times within your own life? that God always has our back, that it's infinite, unbounded love. Well, traditions like Lent can help us remember who we are and why we come together to talk about the bigger picture of life, as well as our own very personal challenges. So I'll start with a quick reminder today of the 4 stages of consciousness by Michael Beckwith that we did last Sunday, I think, or the Sunday before. And there are handouts if you want them to remember. I'm only going to really focus on one today, but I'll do a quick reminder. Then we're going to focus on or take a look at Israel from a metaphysical perspective. Israel has got a huge place in world history. And then we'll put it all together with an excerpt from a powerful essay by Marianne Williamson. And I think many of you are familiar with Marianne. She is really kind of the mother of bringing Course in Miracles into so many places, so many hearts. And she's also was going to do a run for president. She wants a peace room in the White House. You know, she's politically-ish. And I identify with that because I vote as an independent. So I'm not going to go into political things. It's not what is ours to do here at Unity of Bay City. Because we know beyond politics here on earth, there is that higher consciousness. And that's why we're here. That's why we're here, to understand the power of our thoughts, the power that God is through us. So in February, I talked about the 4 stages by Michael Beckwith. And here's this quick review. Stage 1 is to me, and that's called victim consciousness. Everything happens to me, like this morning. But we can move in and out of these stages all the time. Stage 2 is by me, where we embrace that we can manifest, that we can focus on something and manifest it, make it real in our life. Real meaning concrete. Stage 3 is through me. This is where we let go and let God. And stage 4, the focus today, is as me, as me. I and the infinite forces of the universe are one. I am God, spirit, life, being me. At once unique and intrinsically part of the greater whole, I am one with all life as me. So like I said, we have experiences of all 4 of these because we're human. We go through feeling the victim to feeling absolutely connected and all of the stages in between, don't we? We all have that in common, you know, that we're human and that we're divine. So now let's dip into some metaphysical interpretations. For we grow in understanding, and when we expand our field of knowing, just some of the hidden wonders in scripture and in life. So Israel is our spotlighted country this month, and a significant part of Bible history and world history, even though the states and nations and territories have changed names a lot through the years. It's helpful to understand the metaphysical meaning of Israel, a little better as it relates to our current day conflicts. So what does it represent metaphysically? This is an interpretation from Charles Fillmore's Metaphysical Bible Dictionary, which those of you taking Nancy's class on metaphysical Bible interpretation will get to know well. I didn't bring my, it's a big volume, and it's just, it takes some time. You're not going to get through it 4 weeks, let's just say. Israel, metaphysically, Israel is the real of humankind, that consciousness which is founded in God. The idea is a development out of that of contending with and prevailing over anything, whatever. Now that's Charles's language. I'm going to say it in English. So Fillmore's saying that The real humankind is our spiritual self. God within us, God backing us up, and that we must develop the strength to put everything in the consciousness of God, no matter what the outer appearances may be. So we're doing things physically in the human world. You know, the Ukrainians are fighting what came in front of them to fight. They believe that their country is strong and good and doesn't need to be dominated by Russia. And they believe and know that God's got their back. And God has Russia's back too. Therein lies where we have to understand that how powerful our thoughts are. Powerful we are, but we still stand in that knowing as we lift our thoughts. As we lift our thoughts, our world lifts. So he also says spiritual illumination has been obscured by matter and material conditions. And that's true. The army of the Israelites represents an aggregation of thoughts in the mind of every individual. Thoughts that know truth and strive to follow it. That's the point. The army of truth, he says, is made up of spiritual invisible forces. The strong point of the Israelites was their faith in the one God. And he quotes Matthew 10:6 here. The lost sheep of the house of Israel are the spiritual thoughts of people who are unaware of their real character and power. Wow. That makes sense to me. Sense consciousness, my humanness and my divinity. The lost sheep of the house of Israel are the spiritual thoughts of people, all people who are unaware of their real character and power. And it goes back to spiritual illumination being obscured sometimes by matter, like by this is real, instead of this is real. The war between Russia and Ukraine is a modern day version of much what Charles Fillmore was writing about when he called the Bible the story of evolution as humankind's consciousness. And in truth, every war ever fought is described metaphysically in the same way. I don't know why we stopped at the end of the Bible there. We need to metaphysically interpret all of life, you know, as it happens, all the wars that have been since that last chapter of the Bible. We need to take the cover, rip that back cover off, and continue exploring life like that. So the lost sheep of the house of humanity. So in other words, the most hard-won, tragic wars are first found within us. That's where our greatest wars are fought. Jesus fought the war of sense consciousness and spiritual consciousness in those 40 days in the wilderness, and really throughout his life on earth. He was human. He was also spirit, just like we are. He won those battles by allowing the will of spirit within him to take precedence, to guide him, just like we do. We are still evolving, my friends. And it sure seems like we're doing it a lot the hard way, a lot of it the hard way. It doesn't help that our inward journey, it doesn't help forward our inward journey. Remember, spiral up, you know, life isn't like this vertical line. It's a horizontal climbing up in our thoughts. But our inward journey, we blame them. We point fingers and judge bad people. We judge and treat people harshly. We treat ourselves even more harshly. We drop bombs to stop bombs from dropping. We shoot each other to stop the shooting. What an endless cycle of humanity, of insanity. An endless cycle of insanity. Do you have that slide, Joan? My favorite slide of our Albert Einstein. And you guys all know this quote, I'm sure. Not it. There. There's Albert making fun of himself. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. Wow, is that ever a human condition, huh? Thank you, Joan. He also says it this way, that we can't change things from the same level of consciousness that we created them. We can't keep standing here and thinking the same way and expecting something different to happen. God's grace and love lies within us always, keeping in mind, though, that the grace and love comes with choice. And that's where we get all kind of wound up, don't we? Choices. And we have this physical body that we need to help survive, right? So we make choices first so that we can eat and sleep and breathe and have shelter. So to stay in this higher consciousness of creating something good, we just do what we need to do to survive. This is where we can fall into the poop of life. As the lost sheep of the house of humanity, they poop a lot. We blame the outer poop that originated with our powerful thoughts as we simply try to survive. As we're people who are unaware of their real character and power. That's why unity exists. That's what the Fillmores were about. That's what all the people before them were about, and many other faith traditions. Our day-to-day spiritual practices and our support of each other in a spiritual community is a powerful spiritual poop scooper. I thought that was funny. We go within ourselves and allow ourselves to step out of the poo, leaving space for heart wisdom to inform our thoughts. Then we can allow that poo to transform into a rich and abundant place of power within us. Springtime, the heart and mind, right? So now I want to share with you this from Marianne Williamson, like I said earlier, wise woman who, when I read this post, I get a post from her called Transform with Marianne Williamson, and it's free to the public, so we're free to share it. Here, and I have a few excerpts. I took off some that sounds a little more politically like leaning or whatever. But just hear this from whatever filters you have, and we open our heart space and say, what is true for me? What is true for you? Because it doesn't matter what I say up here. It doesn't matter what Jesus said. It doesn't matter what any of our spiritually enlightened beings say. What matters is how we take it in and what we make of it. As fertilizer or higher understanding, or as something to fight against. The wars that start right here. So this is what she says. There's something so important in all of this, not just in terms of Russia or Ukraine or the United States or Europe or NATO or the nuclear arms race. There's some larger lesson for humanity, a message screaming at us from other areas as well, saying, hello, humanity, what you're doing isn't working. It's not just America's foreign policy. It's not our environmental politics. It's not our political functioning. No, there's some deeper problem at the root of all this, some more sinister resistance to life and love. Beneath the material horrors, there's a spiritual dysfunction, a forgetfulness regarding who we are and why we're here. There's no incremental fix for any of this at this point. A little tweaking here and there isn't going to fundamentally heal the gaping wound of the heart of our civilization. Now, I struggled with that a little bit. But then I surrendered to it. We're so out of alignment with our deeper nature, not so much as individuals. I actually think people are pretty wonderful. And I 100% agree with her when she says that. We are. But collectively is how we organize our societies, run our economics, care for other peoples, treat the earth. It's not enough that as individuals, even though most of us might be nice, collectively is where we're off track, and collectively is where we'll need to get it together. Collective shifts are not impossible. They're the stuff that history is made of. And it's important to remember that the majority of a system doesn't have to change in order for the system to tip in another direction. The majority didn't wake up one day and say, let's free the slaves. The majority didn't wake up one day and say, let's give women the right to vote. The majority didn't wake up one day and say, let's desegregate the South. Social change occurs on a vertical, not a horizontal axis. It's not a majority awakening to the need for a new direction that begins to change, but only a critical mass that makes all the difference. When a critical mass in any situation, usually a group of outliers considered, and this was so unity for so long, New Thought, and the Catholic mystics and on throughout history. Usually a group of outliers considered outrageous radicals by the status quo of their time. They stand with conviction and courage for a better idea. The rest that needs to happen will inevitably follow. That's where we move out of the sense consciousness into the truth of we don't have to accept what's happening in this world. What's the better idea today, she asks. That humanity decides to survive. I say thrive. That we awaken to how perilous our current trajectory is and our need for fundamental change. That we surrender who we are, what we have, what we do to being in service to that change. That we embrace the possibility that there might be another way. From there, everything will change in our minds and our life experience. It's like a spiritual conversion from, I thought I was alive to this, to I realize I'm alive to something else. It's a shift in our internal operating system from serving ourselves to serving the ages, from trying to figure out what we think we should do to making ourselves available to whoever love would have us be, to whoever love would have us be. Then and only then will we really know what we should do. All of us need to be the immune cells now of a sickened body of humanity. Wow, that's pretty cool. Think of that. The body can take a lot of injury and disease as long as there's a healthy immune system. And civilization can take a lot of decay and destructiveness as long as enough of its inhabitants are willing to become healers. Just as the cells of the body are led by natural intelligence, so are we when we're willing to listen and to allow. Just as the cells of the body are led by this natural intelligence, so are we when we're willing to listen. Gandhi said that the leader of India's independence movement was a still small voice, the still small voice. It wasn't Gandhi. It was Gandhi listening. It was Gandhi taking quiet step-by-step action, and people caught that. A civilization repairs itself much like an individual does. First, we have to come out of denial. What we're doing is not working because it's not. And once we face that, another kind of thinking sets in, another kind of life force. The wisdom of the world is replaced by the wisdom of the heart. And from all that will emerge from our collective genius. It's not like we don't have other options on how to live on this earth, because we do. We just need to forge them. It will take our strength, individually and collectively. It will take a willingness to embrace change. It will take courage. And my friends, it will take love. It will take love. Take a nice deep breath. I need to. So we circle back to the reason we use this time we call Lent. The reason that we come together on Sundays and during the week in classes. That's why we're here, to come back to the home, to the heart of wisdom, to the spirit of the living, loving God that is within us. Even when we feel like lost sheep, unaware of our real character and power, we get to choose to move into spiritual understanding and come to the realization that we always have the backup of God's energy. Always. That still small voice we can choose to amplify through prayer and meditation and simply some quiet time in quiet contemplation with our highest thoughts about life and our feelings of love in our hearts, little and often, right? In closing, I will take you back to one of the questions I asked you in our meditation this morning. So just take a deep breath. Can you even for a moment allow yourself to feel divine love and wisdom rise up as you, your divine love and wisdom to rise up in you as you in the midst of your human and spiritual journey? Even for a moment, will you affirm, I and the infinite forces of the universe are one? Let's say that together. I and the infinite forces of the universe are one. So this week and beyond, my friends, may you choose to turn your heart lights on big and bright and recognize the infinite as you. And don't forget to take your book with you. And so it is, and so we shall let it be. Amen and amen. Thank you.